So, badass $5 indie game on Steam. Task Battle, turn-based fighting game. You see these replays people make with it, and it's just absurd. Big modding scene, it runs on your laptop, it doesn't need a good connection. Fun side fighting game. All these things you've probably heard about it, and you saw the reviews on Steam, and it's like, shit, $5, I might as well pick it up. But you actually load into the game, you realize you have no idea what you're doing. The UI looks like, like an airplane cockpit. There's just so many dials and text everywhere and nubbins, and you just don't understand what you're doing. You don't understand how to actually play multiplayer against people and not get your ass beat. So, if that's you, you are probably not alone, which is why I made this video. Because this game has tutorials and stuff built into it, like there's this question mark button up here, if you didn't know. But it's, it'll get you there, but it's not that good. So, this video is here to teach you the basic mechanics of YOMI without overwhelming you, because there's a lot to this game, it's pretty complicated. The number one thing that brand new players misunderstand about this game is the prediction system, which shows up whenever you click a move that you're thinking about doing, right? So if I click horizontal slash here, this looks pretty good, right? We see this ghost, this projection of Wizard getting hit by it and sliding over there and hit stun. And there's a blue number, plus 13, so like that must be good, right? I like high numbers, I like blue numbers. But what people don't understand, that kind of takes them a second to get, because it's not explicitly said anywhere, is that what you're seeing here is not like a promise, right? It's not guaranteed that this horizontal slash is going to hit. This is just one possible future where it could hit, right? This shows you basically what happens if it does hit in this situation. Now, the only difference between single player and multiplayer in this game, I'm in single player right now, but the only difference is that I control both players' moves here, right? The only, the UI is going to look the exact same in multiplayer on your end, but one side is going to be grayed out just to show that you're not actually controlling it, right? But even when it's grayed out, you're able to choose and pick options like this and explore what could happen, right? So this is what would happen if if I picked horizontal slash and he did nothing. This is what would happen, right? We lock that in, and this is the prediction I saw a second ago. This is that vision come true, but not necessarily guaranteed to happen, right? He could dash back, and now it's -5 like this, right? Which he can't do anything off of, but that's not good for you necessarily. You could jump over it, right? Wizard might jump over it, and something like this might happen to you, where he forces you to block, right? Or worst of all, worst case scenario, you might get parried for it, right? And then full-on punished and blown to smithereens, right? This is not good. You don't want this to happen to you. So, what can you do? Well, like anything in fighting games, and the core of this game, is that it's like a rock, paper, scissors scenario, right? Where jumping, you might jump over my horizontal slash, but what if I do this, right? Or what if I do this? Or, ooh, sweet spot you. Look at that. That's wild, that does so much damage. Or I could do upward swipe, catch you doing that, right? Oh, I could dash back, and that avoids all that. Well, what if I did this to catch your backdash, right? So when you're selecting moves, it's always a mistake if you're just clicking your side without looking at your opponents, right? You gotta see on their side what they're able to do this turn, and then check it against those options, right? So, let's say I do catch someone jumping, then now I get to think about, because it's my combo, he's in hit stun, right? He's being hit, so he's not able to attack me or move or whatever. The point I'm trying to get at here is that it's impossible to do something in this game that your opponent couldn't have seen coming, right? The point of this prediction system is to give you perfect knowledge of what would happen if I did this and you did that, right? So, if you ever get hit by something unexpected, it's because it's your fault for not checking, right? Or your fault for guessing wrong. Because, Wizard might not know, you might not have played against Cowboy much, you might not know that he can do this, right? And it's like, what the hell, dash back was supposed to be safe. But, the frame advantage is only one possible universe, is what I'm trying to show. So, the other aspect of all this prediction stuff is this frame advantage here, right? Frame advantage is just a measure of how many frames it's going to be. Frames are just like the ticks, like the time unit of this game. it's how many frames it's going to be until you get a turn, right? So if you're positive frame advantage, what that means is that you're going to get a turn and your opponent does not. Hitting someone always puts you positive frame advantage pretty much, right? I get a turn because I just hit him. He does not get a turn because he just got hit and he's a hit stun, right? There's other ways, like if I just whip pommel here, this is minus frame advantage for me. If he just does nothing and I just am like missing and just like whipping attacks like this, right? This is minus frame advantage for me. Now, what you're able to kind of ration out with is say, this is minus 6 frame advantage, right? If for whatever reason I was going to do this and he just sat still, right? So in this situation, if this happened, Wizard here is plus 6, meaning he has 6 frames to do whatever he wants before I get to do anything about it, basically, right? That's what minus 6 means, is that he kind of has like a 6 frame head start to do whatever. He has Tome Slap here, right? Tome Slap is 5 frames, which is enough time that he can punish me here. He can hit Tome Slap, and I can try to like whiff cancel, but that doesn't always work, right? And really, I just can't do much about this. So, the point of frame advantage is using these frame counters that the game gives you, right? You see how up at the top here it says like 6F and like 9F and 8F? You use this and the data on your opponent's side to figure out what you can and can't do. So, for example, Impale here is 13 frames, right? Horizontal Slash here is plus 13. So, I should be able to do Horizontal Slash to Impale as a combo. That should always work, right? If I did something that was less than plus 13, like, I don't know, like what? Is there even anything like that? All Cowboy stuff is pretty plus. You also have, you know, whoa, if I'm doing a combo and this is plus 35, right? I have time to do all kinds of stuff. I could, like, take out my gun and shoot him instead of just having to hit him again. You know? Or, I might not have to, like, I might have attacks that hit, like this, or Impale, or whatever, but you don't always have to attack, right? You always got movement. So if you're big plus like that, you'll always have time to do a movement option like this, and chase them, and spike them back down for more, you know? So that's always something to think about, is that frame advantage is a measure of how much stuff you get to do, and how much stuff they get to do, right? And the goal of this game is obviously to do more stuff than them so that you are beating their ass the whole time. One thing that new players often fail to understand in this game is the free cancel mechanic. It comes from this free toggle right here, and it's tracked by these free cancel X's up here. So what free cancels do is they usually, there's no reason to really do them in combos, they don't change anything there, and they don't like make your moves stronger or anything, but they do make your moves safer, is the main point of them. So, you'll notice if I do like jump here, right, or let's go back to the example from earlier, like if I did this whiff anti-air, like I go up and I just miss, versus Wizard just waiting there, right? If I don't do the free toggle, then we get into the situation I showed, where there's enough frames for Wizard to take his turn and punish before I can like react or block or attack or do anything about it, right? But all of a sudden, if I take this box here, right? See how the predictions don't show minus anymore, right? In this scenario. So what free cancel does is it means basically whenever my opponent gets a turn, I get a turn too, right? Which if you think about it, because frame advantage is a measure of how many frames until my opponent gets a turn, basically, right? If you do free cancel, when my opponent gets a turn, I get a turn, basically, right? Here, ready in 10, ready in 16, right? But with free cancel, it's both ready and 10, right? So, without he gets a turn, I don't get a turn. Nothing I can do about this, right? But with he gets a turn, I get a turn. And now he can Tome Slap me, sure, but maybe I'll avoid it, right? Or parry it or something. You know, like, I have all my options available to me now. So, free cancels are very important, and that's why they're on by default in the settings. I have it turned off because I'm old. But basically, when you do most moves in neutral, it's a good idea to free cancel them, because it means you won't get taken advantage of by someone who's just moving and schmoving all around you. You do have to kind of conserve them, though, because if you're just like, if your opponent is playing really safely, and you're just like swinging and swinging like a barbarian, right? Like, oh, I'm gonna vertical slash you, grah, and you just get jumped over like this. It's like, oh, it's okay because I use free cancels. And then, you know, oh, I'm gonna get you with my 3 combo, and he just dodges out of the way, right? Like, I'm still safe here. I've never been punished by Wizard for this, but now I'm out of free cancels, right? So if I try it again, and, you know, let's say I did something crazy like this, and he just kind of dashes out of the way. Then now, you know, I have no free cancels left. You can see, I don't have any meter to spend to give me another free cancel. So, because I'm out up here, right, he just dashes, I miss, and I'm not safe anymore, right? Now, without doing whiff cancel, which this costs burst, by the way, so that's very committal, because you want to be able to keep your burst. Usually whiff cancel is not worth it. But yeah, in this situation, I get punished for this, and he gets a combo, and there's nothing I can do about it, right? So, free cancels are important. The only time you don't want to use it is when you think you can get away with it. So one good example is Wizard has Tome Slap, right? See how this says ready in 12 frames? It just has a very short recovery, like it's not a very laggy move at all. So, you know, I'm plus 1 frame advantage here because I avoided his Tome Slap, but really what that means is I have 1 frame to do whatever I want without him being able to counteract it, right? And what I see a lot of new players do is they'll be plus 1 or something like this, right? They'll have this 1 frame, and then they'll do like a free cancel attack like this, right? And my question is why? Because it's not going to hit him, right? If you understand this this prediction system and the frame advantage and stuff, you know that this isn't going to hit him. Like, he's going to be ready here, and then we'll be able to try and do something about it, right? So you don't always need to be attacking and always using your free cancels, right? If you have a situation like this where you're plus just a little bit and none of your stuff is really looking quite right, like you could try and do something like this, but you know, then you just get kind of avoided, right? So if you're in situations like this with barely any time to do anything, sometimes you should just do nothing and just reset it back to both people having a turn, right? Sometimes that's just the only thing you can do. But basically, what I was trying to say is that Tome Slap here, free canceling it doesn't really do anything, right? Because in that situation I showed, here Cowboy's like, oh, I'm plus 1, like, whoopee, what am I going to do with my 1 frame? Not hit you, that's for sure, right? So you kind of end up just doing nothing here. But let's say we did free cancel the Tome Slap, right, and the same thing happens. We kind of just skip right to this turn, right? So we've used a resource, and we haven't really gained very much for it, right? So there's kind of a resource management aspect with that, with people are going to be jumping and moving and backdashing a lot away from you. And if you preserve your free cancels good, then, you know, maybe I'm not scared of Cowboy doing Stinger here, and if he jumps and gets to be plus 4, then I don't really care, right? So I could do something like this and intentionally not use my free cancel, right? Just because I'm being stingy with the resource. And, you know, he might force me to block this, but it's like, whatever, right? That's okay. So there's something to think about there. You'll notice there's a little triangle menu here. This brings up settings for the actual predictions, which you can just turn them off if you want. This is Sligo. Nobody does this. This is like challenge mode, basically. This is after images here. It's the preference thing. You know, if you don't like the way that the after images here work for like the multiple turns, then you can turn that off if you want. Freeze on ready is very important. I think people who don't have this setting turned on are screwing themselves over, because you see how the game kind of freezes and says ready in 12 frames? This really puts into perspective, like, oh, if I hit him, I'm ready in 12, but if I don't hit him, I don't get that freeze, and I'm ready in 16 instead, right? So I recommend keeping this on, because not having it on kind of it gives people the wrong idea about how this frame stuff even works. Freeze sound I have, tick 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 tick. I got so annoyed after so many thousands of hours of playing this that I just turned it off, but you can have that on if you want. And then, if it helps you to see, you can manually slow the game down. And if you're a real sweat lord, you can turn on double prediction speed, just have everyone hauling ass constantly, and that will help you like check options faster. So, if you're just playing this game for the first time, I do recommend downloading 2 mods, just to make your life easier. You're going to have to enable mods and options here, down here, it's pretty easy. Then just restart and go to your Steam Workshop. I'll show some screenshots on the screen for how you navigate all of that. What all of this does is Custom Stage Loader lets you do custom background instead of just the boring black and white, which is very pretty, very handy, and there's all kinds of awesome art out there that you can get. My favorite is this one, for reasons that knowers will know about. Pretty, right? But if you're trying to like sweat and take this game seriously, this quality of life mod is pretty important. I'm going to enable it here. It's been disabled for the rest of this video. And there's all these little settings here, so you can show HP numbers. That's good because the health bars kind of visually play tricks on you just to make the game more hype. There's there's accurate HP, which this one, it's not any more accurate, it just divides all the HPs by 10 because it's how they're coded in the game's code. This one is annoying to me, so I turn it off. Sadness is a whole mechanic I didn't even talk about, but it doesn't matter. And there's like all these little like UI tooltips you can get. So if that doesn't overwhelm you, then you can see now we have this like ready in 10F here also shows up. I have this like line for my burst. You see this little notch here? That shows you how much whip cancel takes. And we have 1500 out of 1500. Yeah, so if you want to spice up your game and just make it a bit more playable and a bit nicer, then this is a good option for you.